this afternoon's news update live here on Channel 44. The team of Kenya's president-elect has barred local media from covering the presidential inauguration, offering exclusive broadcast rights to Multi-Choice Kenya Limited, an affiliate of South Africa Pay TV Group. Kenya National Broadcaster KBC has a minority shareholding at Multi-Choice Kenya Limited. Local broadcasters will receive the contractor's live feed. Details of the contract have been made public, but previous presidential inaugurations have been covered jointly by local media at no cost to the government. The announcement has been met by protests by local journalists and media organizations, with the leading Daily Nation newspaper accusing the president-elect of wasting opportunities to rise to statesmanship. Mr. Ruto's communications team has defended the decision, saying the contractor will provide a channel for the rest of Africa. They have also accused local media of bias against Mr. Ruto, pointing out to critical coverage of his campaigns and his Kenya Kwanza, Kenya First coalition. And in Nigeria, an unconfirmed number of people died during a Sunday evening attack on the convoy of a Nigerian senator in Anambra State. The attackers are reported to have opened fire at the convoy. Senator Ifeanyi Uba is said to be safe and in good condition after the attack in Njikoka area, according to his Young Progressives Party. The party said the senator's aides and police escorts lost their lives, but did not give the number of casualties. Local reports quote an aide as terming it an assassination attempt. Opposition presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has condemned the attack. The African Union has welcomed, this is in Ethiopia, the African Union has welcomed an announcement by Tigrayan rebels in northern Ethiopia that they are willing to take part in peace negotiations. The head of the AU Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, said it was a unique opportunity to end the conflict and urged the rebels and the government in Addis Ababa to implement an immediate ceasefire. Fighting resumed in August after several months of calm, but on Sunday, the Tigrayan leadership said it was ready to participate in a peace process under the auspices of the African Union. Tigrayan leaders had previously been critical of an AU-led mediation, instead favoring outgoing Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta to lead the talks. There has been no direct reaction from the Ethiopian government, but it has previously said it would talk anytime, anywhere. And in the United Kingdom, mourners wishing to pay their final respects to the Queen have been warned to expect long queues. Details have been revealed about how people can attend the lying-in state at the Palace of Westminster. Large crowds are expected, and there are warnings those wanting to take part in the historic occasion may have to wait for hours or even overnight. People will face airport-style security and tight restrictions on what they can bring with them. The lying-in state begins at 17:00 British Standard Time on Wednesday and will last until 6:30 on Monday, the 19th of September, the day of the Queen's funeral. It will be open 24 hours a day between those times. The last member of the royal family to lie in state in the hall was the Queen Mother in 2002, when more than 200,000 people queued to view her coffin. The Queen's funeral will be living tradition in action, according to the Dean of Westminster. Queen Elizabeth II's Kojis are going to live with her son Prince Andrew and his ex-wife, according to media. The Duke of York and Sarah, Duchess of York, will take on Milk and Sandy, two young Kojis that the Prince and his daughters gave the Queen as a present in 2021. The Queen also had a doggy, a Dachshund Koji cross-named Candy, which she was pictured with in January. Her Majesty owned more than 30 Kojis during her lifetime. So strong was the association that well-wishers almost immediately began asking who would adopt the dogs. And in Sweden, the election was too close to call on Sunday night, according to Prime Minister Magdalene Anderson. Exit polls at first predicted victory for the incumbent left-wing coalition, but results later suggested the right-wing bloc could narrowly win. Crime and integration of communities were major issues in the campaign, and the far-right Sweden Democrats look set to become the second largest party. It could take until Wednesday for all votes to be counted. Soon after polls closed, an early exit poll by Sweden's public broadcaster suggested Ms. Anderson's coalition of four left-wing parties would narrowly win with 49.8% of the votes compared to 49.2%. The left celebrations were perhaps premature after the later partial results put the right-wing group ahead with a projected 176 of 349 seats in parliament after 94% of electoral districts were counted. And in Europe, Russia aims to deprive people of light and heat by causing power cuts across eastern Ukraine in revenge for a counter-offensive, according to President Volodymyr Zelensky. Blackouts reportedly affected millions of people in the eastern Kharkiv and Donetsk regions, and the Kharkiv city mayor says power is now restored. It comes after Ukraine said it had retaken over 3,000 square kilometers in an eastern counter-offensive. The Kharkiv mayor, Ihor Terekov, said Russian attacks on civilian infrastructure left much of his city without power or water last evening. He called it a vile and cynical attempt at revenge for Ukrainian army's recent successes. What sounded like two further missile strikes were later on heard in the evening, according to international reporters. And Mr. Terekov and the region's governor called for calm, saying the emergency services were working to repair damage and put out the fires. And still in Ukraine, farmers are now rejoicing as they recall the moments of their liberation when the hated occupiers were forced from their village in the southern region of Kherson. Farming there is now in peace and quiet until the Russians was in peace and quiet until Russians arrived on the 29th of March. What they did not destroy, they stole, according to some farmers, including forks and spoons and the shoes from a pensioner's feet. They asked in Ukrainian, "Is anyone alive?" And if they realized that they were Ukrainians, they would kill them mercilessly. And finally, in Asia, Japanese officials may further relax border controls for foreign travelers as a way to boost its economy, according to local reports. Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary Seiji Kihara told local TV a week that yen was most effective in attracting inbound tourism. The yen slid to its lowest point against the US dollar in 24 years last week, dropping as much as 1.7%. He said a cap on daily entries could be lifted in the not so distant future. Japan has barred more foreign visitors for the last 2 years amid measures to slow the spread of COVID-19. Last year, overseas visitors were even barred from the delayed 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games. However, earlier this month, the number of foreign tourists allowed to enter the country was raised to 5,000 per day from 20,000, was raised to 50,000 per day from 20,000, and tourists were no longer required to travel with a guide. Other reports suggest the government may scrap the daily cap on arrivals altogether. The US dollar has gained strength against the other currencies as investors keep a watchful eye on the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes. Afternoon's news update. Pastor Jessica Kayanja is coming on with the Marriage Now program, together with an awesome panel that will help enlighten you on mentorship, especially in regard to marriage and daily lives. Well, that brings us to the end of this afternoon's news headline.